Hi guys,
Welcome to Happy Dental Marketing.
I'm Mandy.
I'm Jonathan, and today we're going to give you 3 tips on how to grow your business
Absolutely free.
using a structure that we created called the Foundations of Business Growth. It has 4 parts. These are the 4 essential parts that you'll need to begin increasing your outreach and attract new patients coming into your office on a monthly and eventually even a weekly basis. Each part builds off each other. That's why it's kind of in the shape of a pyramid. So, not just talking about your business, but also looking at the bigger picture of what you really want to do. Like bringing in more patients so you can bring in more money to live on, to live an abundant life, making more people smile, doing the things you want to do with your time. Your network is growing. You're not under pressure. You have the respect of your peers. You have free time to enjoy and create. This stuff will enable you to grow your business to support you, your family, and your future gadgets, vacations, toys, etc. So it has 4 parts. It has the first level, which is the social media level.
This level is really important. It's the foundation for a reason. It's because a lot of people are experiencing their life through social media. It's a huge part of everyday life nowadays. And so if it's not part of your business, that's a really big hindrance because basically it's free marketing for your business.
Social media is becoming far more important than we had ever guessed. In this recent Forbes article, it talks about how Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law, actually won the election by using social media. There are a few passages in this article that I kind of want to talk about. So to kind of just show you kind of how social media is changing the landscape of companies and businesses around the world, especially dentistry. So there's a quote in here. I'll raise this up again. See, the son-in-law also rises, and he talks about how specifically social media, a lot has changed since Obama took the office. Clinton did borrow from Obama's playbook, but also leaned heavily on traditional media. The traditional campaign is dead, it says. Another victim of the unfiltered democracy of the web. Kushner, more than anyone not named Donald Trump, killed it. And so it goes on to say, Trump and Kushner talked about how the campaign was underutilizing social media. And so early on, he started to do, this kind of social media thing. He asked the son-in-law, Jared, to take over his Facebook initiatives. And so Jared, was like, I had to call some of my friends from Silicon Valley, some of the best digital marketers in the world, and asked, how do you scale stuff? Because it's really important. And after giving a tutorial on how to use Facebook micro-targeting, the Trump campaign went from selling 8,000 worth of hats and other items a day to 80,000. And specifically, he also spent a good chunk of money to promote a series of low-tech policy videos of Trump talking straight into the camera that collectively generated more than 74 million views. So he started, building a team that would be eventually a 100-person data hub designed to unify fundraising, messaging, and targeting. So it was really important. It says, television and online advertising, smaller and smaller. Twitter and Facebook would fuel the campaign as key tools for not only spreading Trump's message, but also targeting potential supporters. And it says they weren't afraid to make changes. We weren't afraid to fail. So as you start to, do your social media and this foundation of the business growth, it's okay to make changes, to try things. We try to do things very cheaply, it goes on to say, very quickly. And if it wasn't working, we would kill it quickly, Kushner says. It meant making decisions quick, fixing things that were broken and scaling things that worked. And so it kind of goes on to say, fundraising, they turned to machine learning, installing digital marketing companies um, to make them compete for business. And, uh, you know, they went on to say they raised more than $250 million in 4 months, mostly from small donors, because they kept reaching out and targeting people who were interested in possibly, voting for Trump through their passion because they believed in what he believed. So it's a very good example of how social media really affected today's landscape and ultimately the election and our president of today. So a lot of people ask, why is social media important? This is a great example.
So I want to talk about this because I think it has a lot of relevance to what's happening today with media. But a lot of people know the story, but the debate between Nixon and Kennedy is often credited for Kennedy winning the election because it was the first televised political debate. Up until then, television was really kind of only for entertainment, and this is the first time politics kind of entered the sphere of television. And because of that, viewers thought Nixon, they thought he looked sickly, they thought he didn't respond as well, they thought he wasn't as confident. But it's interesting because the viewers who were listening on the radio to the debate, they thought Nixon had won. They thought Kennedy had lost. But the televised audience thought otherwise. And then when they went to the polls, Kennedy won. And I think we're seeing a lot of that nowadays. Just like the television was new during that time and a new medium for, business and political people they're starting to find it, starting to discover its potential of affecting things. I think social media today is completely in the same vein. Trump won the election based on social media. There was an article about it in Forbes magazine, but if you followed Twitter, Trump's Twitter was off the charts. And I think a lot of people felt like maybe those radio listeners in Kennedy's day, they really thought that Nixon was in the lead, just like people who were following the polls thought Clinton was in the lead, and it was a big shock to everyone. But, we're on that cutting edge of social media where social media is a huge, integral part of today's society. It's integral in how we do business, how we do politics. It's the new television, basically, of our day and age. So I think it's something really important that shouldn't be overlooked. It's really the make or break point between those voters coming out for your business, basically.
So even Taylor Swift had a fantastic influence on Apple because she wrote a letter on social media, Tumblr in this instance, to basically influence the outcome and jurisdiction and rules that Apple Music had set back when it was first launched. So this shows the power of social media. Let me pull it up here. Taylor Swift letter to Apple. See? So you can see there's a Time article here, and it shows, when I woke, I was greeted by multiple stories about Taylor Swift's open letter to Apple and its CEO, Tim Cook. And the note, it goes on to say, basically, she said that it was unfair for Apple to not pay their artists for the 3 months that they were having the trial, period. So she got them to change their minds. So if we go back, you can see her actual Tumblr that she wrote here. And this is the letter. And this was liked by 108,000 people. And of course, because of so many people that she has in social media that follow her, it was picked up by someone at Apple who said, "Taylor, we're listening." It was picked up by Times, Forbes. It was kind of a huge deal. So that's the power of social media, and this is just one more example. So the second most important thing that you need to grow your business is a website. Having a website is basically one of the most important foundations for starting a business. Nowadays, we've moved into the digital world, and without having a website is like having no legs. So the first thing that any sort of younger generation person would do is actually look on Google or even just type in a person's website. And if that person doesn't have a website, then they would most likely not go to that person. So for dental offices, it's even more important. A lot of my personal friends that grew up in the millennial age have said that the first thing they do, they go search the doctor on Google, best dentists in, Thousand Oaks or Northridge or Glendale, Burbank, and all of a sudden they see what the top hits are, they click on it, and if the website looks legit, that's actually a high consideration for them. So having a website is one of the basis for starting to grow your business.
I think any business nowadays that doesn't have a website, it just gives off a bad vibe. People are like, this place looks sketchy. It doesn't even have a website. I think websites are kind of that first impression. You know how when you meet someone you get a first impression? I think websites are often that first impression that people are, looking for. And just like with people, first impressions stick and they last, and there's a reason why, people are so nervous with that first impression, because it really affects how the other person thinks. And so it's really important to have a really good first impression. And you can have that by, having a good website with things placed in the right ways. You're not trying to be greedy and just get people's information. You want a nice professional, depending on your business, what style, that fits your industry, but you want a website that's really going to give, that potential client a really good first impression.
Another important thing about websites is actually if your website is mobile compatible. That's super important, because I have a couple of statistics here from Google. If you want, these are sort of some little tidbits that Google puts out through its newsletter called Think with Google. And because they have a lot of analytics, they provide a bunch of things that help you grow your business. So this is just one example. But basically, this one right here is across the millions of websites using Google Analytics, more than 50% of all web traffic is now coming from smartphones and tablets. This one over here says 87% of people turn to search first to get things done. So you can start to see that mobile websites, especially if your website is viewable on a phone, that's super important. But also getting your name up the search rankings is actually really important. There's something called SEO, which is search engine optimization. And that actually comes into play because you're trying to optimize your website and your presence and your business, your dental practice, to get that as high as you can. So when someone searches best dentist in Thousand Oaks, you will come up first. Even within the top 10 is fine, because today most people, as you can see, turn to search first to get things done. And so again, another part of web design is if your website takes longer than 3 seconds to load, you can see that 40% of your potential patients will leave because they're like, this, dentist, this doctor doesn't know what they're doing. I don't know if I can trust them. And so a lot of people are becoming more used to a fast web experience. Another one is 90% of smartphone users say they aren't absolutely sure of the specific brand they want to buy when they begin shopping. This is important not because you're in the retail industry, but because you are a dentist, and if 90% of today's smartphone users, which could be millennials, Gen Z, or anyone that uses a smartphone, they aren't sure about which dentist they want to go to. Maybe they got a referral, maybe they talked to someone they knew, but if they're looking for a dentist or a potential dentist, 90% of them don't even know what they want or who to talk to. So this is important and can translate from the retail business. Moving on, 78% of travelers haven't decided on an airline when they first start thinking about a trip. Again, if they're going to go see someone, they haven't even decided, oh, I want to see this dentist. Again, translating from the travel industry now. All of the statistics can be translated to different industries, which is why it's important to stay on top of things like this, because data can drive how you start marketing your business. Mobile makes up 88% of all near-me searches, with those mobile searches growing even faster at 146% year over year, which is really interesting because if you are sitting and you're in Thousand Oaks, Northridge, Burbank, Glendale, Los Angeles, Santa Monica, you'll be like, okay, dentist near me. And does your name come up? Are you even listed? That's important to know. 40% of smartphone video viewers visited the store or brand website. So basically, if you have a video on your site, which is becoming more and more important because people aren't reading as much, they just want to watch a video of even just who you are, what you do. I think it's important, they see your video on your site. 88% of consumers say they trust online reviews as much as personal recommendations. So this is super important, especially for dentistry. I have a lot of friends that say, I went to Google and then I went to Yelp, and did this dentist have high-star reviews? Then they trusted that person more, and especially if the comments were recent and fresh and there were a lot of them. That's kind of what helps build on, the trust, they say. And as much as personal recommendations nowadays, you might actually trust what the reviews say just as much as maybe someone recommending it. So if your dad or brother, sister recommended, oh, you should go to this dentist, and you look and they have 3 stars versus 5 stars, you might, hesitate just a bit. You might think twice and go, maybe I'll try this other one. Maybe because, the dentist had a bad experience, or people have been having bad experiences with this dentist. So you might, just have that little hesitation, which then might turn away that potential patient. Again, and then going to more than 50% of younger travelers are comfortable planning an entire trip on a smartphone, playing again to the importance of mobile device, things, because your website now is being viewed more than 50% of the time by people that are younger. So it's important that it's friendly and also kind of fresh. And lastly, this may or may not come into play for some of you, but virtual reality is the next frontier. So maybe give a tour of your office or something like that, using one of the 360 cameras that are out on the market for $500. So these are just some kind of metrics to kind of help give you an idea of what your website needs in order to keep up with today's market and demand, and especially consumers. Okay, so the third step is email list.
Email lists. So once you get either potential clients or you're maintaining clients and you have this email list, it's really, really important that you send out appropriate emails. Basically, Google and Hotmail and all these other, email platforms, they are looking to block anything that has to do with spam, or, they're looking for, anything that has big amounts of people that it's, sending things to. They are on super guard for making sure that content doesn't hit someone's inbox. So there's a lot of things that you need to know, or else Google's going to block that email. It doesn't matter that you have a huge email list because no one's going to see it. And in fact, you're just going to hurt yourself because, it's going to mark you as a spammer. And so basically there's different things that you need to be doing to make sure, you know, you're using the right keywords, you're making sure people are opening up your mail. You know, you want to make sure that the emails that you are sending are not going to be marked as spam, because you know, it's a tricky territory, and you got to have someone that knows how to navigate it, unfortunately.
And the fourth foundation of business growth is story. So story is actually the top of the pyramid, because story is the driver of all three of the other parts. If you think about it, story has been a part of human history for the past however millennia. Since we were cavemen, our ancestors were telling stories, translating knowledge, transferring wisdom through writing on cave walls, through story. Story sticks in our brains so well. Anytime that you go to a talk or see someone, you know, doing something, or see a great movie, it's because it has a great story. So story, in a sense, is who you are as a dentist. It's your sort of brand identity. Why do you do what you do? What's your reason for being? TED Talks, if you have ever seen the technology, entertainment, design talks that they host up in Vancouver every so often, they all center around, 90% of them center around a singular story they have for their talk and what drove them to do what they do. So why, as a dentist, did you go to dental school? Why do you care about fixing teeth, making people smile? Why, you know, why does that matter? Why should people care? So that, I think, is actually one of the things that you need to do. As a dentist, you know, what drives you? Where do you get your energy? And it's super important for your patients, your future patients, especially the generation 3 and 4, the millennials and the generation Z. If you want to attract them, they definitely are attracted to story. And why should I go to this dentist over another dentist? You know, what makes this dentist unique? It's like, oh my gosh, my dentist is super cool because he is super into, take whatever is popular at the time, Star Wars or Pokemon, or he's super passionate about art on teeth, and you know, you can write your name on your tooth or something like that, and that you know, that kind of story. And because you felt like, oh, dentistry needed more personalization, you decided to do that. And so what do you represent? What do you stand for? And what's cool about your office? How, you know, if there's 3 dentists in one single complex in one area, what's going to cause someone to go to you versus someone else? And that's sort of the pièce de résistance of the foundations of business growth. So that's where you need to really focus your attention, because it drives, you know, what the theme of your website will be. It drives, you know, the kind of content you'll be pushing out to your email list, and it drives, you know, the look of the ads, or even the kind of ads you push out on social media. Do you like fixing baseball, you know, injuries to teeth because you were once a baseball kid once? And so that's super important. You have to kind of take who you are as a person and bring that into your practice. So start there. What is your story? So now that you've seen all 4 foundations of business growth, they all tie into one another. Starting from the bottom, you can see that social media is basically how you're going to make your presence known, how you're going to reach out into the world and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, this is what I do. So you as a dentist, you'll offer certain services to potential patients. And so this is growing your awareness, making yourself and your presence of your practice, whether you just started or whether you've been doing business for 40 years, this is how people will start to be aware that you exist. Moving to the second stage, as you recall, websites are super important, because this is actually where you get to present your value. This is what you offer. So once you make yourself known, you bring potential patients to your website to make them know what value that you bring and could potentially bring to their lives. Second and third, this is the email list. Email lists are important. You can build this again through giveaways, contests, etc., discounts. This one is how you'll tell your either potential or current patients any messages that you want, any news. This is how you'll get in contact with them. Any special, things that you've added to your practice or anything that they should be aware of. And so you want to keep your tabs on this pretty closely. And then lastly, your story is the driver of all of these things. So this one is probably one of the most important, again, because it defines your reason for being, your why. Why does your practice exist? Why do you do the things that you do? So reason and why. So this top one trickles down and drives all four. But if you're trying to get potential new customers for business growth, you work from the bottom up. And that's the four, which will lead into now the 3 tips on how to build your customer, your patient base from the ground up, or even if you're existing, adding additional people to your patient base, whether it's millennials, Generation Z, or even kind of the older Gen X, Gen Y, so that everyone can be aware of what you do and what you can offer, because you have very good skills that you can bring to the world. So you just need to let people know what those things are. Now we come to the 3 tips to instantly get you new patients and to grow your practice.
These are really good tips.
Yeah, so because we're the son and daughter-in-law of dentists, we know the pains of small businesses and business owners and the difficulty of getting new patients.
Yeah,
so
that's the trick.
These are sort of 3 tips that you can start using right away, along with the foundations of business growth that we just outlined, to really hit the ground running. Yeah. So again, in relation to that, we have start with why. So this is super important because you have to really start thinking of why you're doing what you're doing, why you're practicing dentistry in the first place, what your story is, what the purpose of your practice is. Do you have a target patient base? Do you want to treat kids with baseball injuries, people who, get into car accidents, reconstructive surgery, cosmetic surgery. You know that from dental school because you went through all that specialization. Do you do prosthodontics? All of that matters. Or do you just do, you're not just a general dentist.
Right.
You have special skills in certain areas, and that needs to be highlighted.
Right. And Simon Sinek said, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So in this case, they don't go to you because you're a dentist. I mean, of course they go to you because you're a dentist, but they go to you because they like your style of working, or because your office, is close to them, or because you represent something. We hardly go see a doctor just purely based on the fact that they're a doctor. There's so many other factors that come into it. So you want to strengthen your brand. You want to strengthen what your why is at your business.
And why people should like you, and what makes you unique versus the 5 other dentists that are right around the corner.
Mm-hmm. We have a lot of those here.
Yeah, and we've passed countless dentists that it just says dentist.
Dentist.
And you're like,
and then you look on the other side of the street and there's dentist.
Yeah.
And
so the dentists that have kind of different kind of names or marketing or just kind of ads, those kind of appeal to people because it differentiates you.
Absolutely.
So this is Start With Why is actually a book by Simon Sinek.
It's really good. Yeah.
And it's really great. So I recommend picking up a copy. Yeah. Okay, so the second tip is don't go it alone.
Yeah.
And so, this one's really important because as you're growing your new practice, your new business or if you're growing an existing practice, it's easy to be like, oh, okay, I can do all of that because, I either grew up as a millennial or, I have someone I already hired to do social media. And so I'd say, like, trust the experts. If you were to say, if I wanted to be a dentist, would you tell me, oh, yeah, that's okay, you can start tomorrow? Well, that might not work out because I don't know all the ins and outs as someone who has gone through dental school would. So you would tell me, oh, you should probably go to school, maybe undergrad for 4 years, and then you would go to
intern with someone. Or,
intern or even go to dental school for 4 years because you need to gain all those skills. So someone, who has gone through social media and spent their own money, we are partnering with actually those kinds of people, and they've spent decades, even millions of dollars into learning the ins and outs of social media. So, I would highly say, like, trust the experts, trust people who have done social media before, so that, you can do what you do best, and so they can do what they do best.
And it's like a chef. A chef is, who does his own restaurant. He's not going to go wait the tables. That would be a waste of his time. And, he might not even do a good job of waiting the tables because maybe you want to hire someone that's, really an expert in being friendly and, has waited tables before. And, a chef cooks and creates the recipes, and it would be a waste of his time to go and wait the tables. So
don't go it alone. I would say hire experts in the field. And, you could spend 1 to 10 years. You could, spend the next 10 years learning exactly the same things that they've learned. But if you hire someone that has already gone down the path, gone through dental school and all that stuff, but for social media, you can save yourself years and shave off years of just time wasted and just get a leg up already.
Yeah.
And then the last tip is keep the end goal in mind.
Yeah.
So remember, you got into dentistry for a reason.
What was your end goal that you were thinking of when you first decided to become a dentist?
To live an abundant life, to live a life where you got to decide what you wanted to do, to bring in enough income to support your family, your friends, and was it to have a certain lifestyle? So keep that in mind and ask yourself, am I getting there with the current patient base I am having, or do I want to, or can I have the capacity for more patients so I can grow my business, 1x, 2x, 10x, and eventually reach that, lifestyle income level that I had envisioned from the beginning when I began this whole journey of going to school, dental school, and eventually owning my own practice, hiring other, hygienists or, doctors. So you just, have to do some of the math.
Yeah, just ask yourself, is my business where I want it to be? Do I have the number of patients I want to have? Do I want to have the amount of growth that I have?
Exactly. So, this is a full stack proven way to get more patients coming into your office using the best tips in the industry for, us partnering with the leading social media influencers. So, I highly recommend that you, take all of these things into account because, it's important to put this whole package together. And these are some of the tips that we've kind of gathered, from our parents that are dentists, talking to a lot of other patient friends of ours that have searched for dentists.
Why would you go see a dentist?
And talking to other, of course, friends of our parents, and seeing what their challenges are. These are the 3 tips that we've found that practices that implement these 3 things, start to skyrocket and become very abundant and wealthy. So that's the foundations of business growth, and these are the 3 tips.
We hope you enjoyed our free tips today. If you'd like to learn more, please reach out to us.
Click the button below to schedule a free strategy session.
And remember, how much is a new patient worth to you?